What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Fly, and as I said in the previous video talking about what happens with Luffy after Wano, I said I was going to talk about each of the Straw Hats, and now it's Roronoa Zoro's turn, and now we're going to be talking about what happens to Zoro after Wano. I absolutely love Zoro. Even though he's not classified as the official vice captain of the crew, I like to think of him as Luffy's anchor. He's Luffy's backbone and always there to back his captain's decision and making sure that he's on track, and he's always there to make Luffy take things serious. And whenever Luffy is slacking off, Zoro is always there to pick up the pieces and back his captain up. Even though all the Straw Hats are like that, Zoro is the first mate, and no matter the decision, Zoro is always there to back Luffy up. We are currently in Wano Kuni, and I, as well as many others, have lots of high expectations for Roronoa Zoro. It's time for Zoro to shine and to show what he learned during the time skip. This video we're going to talk about what I expect from Zoro, what's going to happen to Zoro after Wano, as well as his bounty and possible power-ups. Zoro actually holds a lot of weight and connections within Wano, and his backstory might be fleshed out a bit more, as it was alluded to and hinted that Zoro has a lineage derived from Wano Kuni and that he might actually be connected to the Shimotsuki clan, as well as gaining one of the two blades that was able to pierce Kaido's skin, and which was once held by Kozuki Oda. After being forced to relinquish the blade Shosui, Zoro had some interest in visiting Ryuma's grave, the previous owner of Shosui, so that's probably when we'll learn more about Zoro's heritage, as him and Ryuma both have striking similarities in appearance, as well as similar feats by cutting off a dragon's head in their lifetime. Now when it comes to power-ups, there are two things in particular, well three. One, Zoro's gonna keep the sword Enma. Two, I believe that Zoro by the end of this arc will have possession of some new black blades, being Enma and the Wado Ichimonji. As revealed by Tenguyama Hitetsu, both Enma and the Wado Ichimonji was actually crafted by the very same person, Shimotsuki Kozuburo, the creator and founder of Zoro's village. And funny enough, he is actually still alive, revealed in the SBS, and that is where Zoro learned the word Sanachi. And because both Enma and the Wado were both crafted by the same person, and Zoro is in possession of both swords, and with Tenguyama believing that Zoro will be the one to be able to make the Enma turn into a black blade, something that even Kozuki Oden wasn't able to do. So by the end of Wano, not only will Enma, but also the Wado Ichimonji will both become a black blade under the tutelage of Zoro. And Hitetsu even hinted at or implied that once Zoro is able to complete this task, the Enma will become a higher grade sword and possibly becoming one of the 12 supreme grade swords in the world. Well, that would make it 13, but you guys get what it. Now, how Zoro will gain the black blade is uncertain, but it's implied that you have to go through numerous battles, and it probably has something to do with Haki. So after a considerable amount of battles and Haki's poured into the blade, it will probably turn into a black blade, from what I'm assuming. So because when Zoro was reminiscing about or heard about the black blade, he thought about his training with Mihawk, mentioning that every sword or any sword can become a black blade. So I'm assuming it has something to do with Armament Haki. It's said that Zoro's specialty is actually Armament Haki, so he'll probably gain even better control and an upgrade in his Armament Haki, and possibly learning Ryo by the end of Wano, which wouldn't surprise me, because if you remember, his reasoning in wanting to go to Wano is because of Kinemon and his ability to cut fire, and yet throughout the story, or ever since then, we haven't really even seen or even heard a mention of this technique. So we still need to learn how he does it. My guess is that it has something to do with Ryo, because back in the Prisoner Mines, Hyogoro mentioned that Ryo is an advanced Haki technique, but it's actually a lot easier to use if you are a swordsman. So it probably has something to do with that, and Kinemon actually puts Ryo onto his blade, and once he hits the flame, his Haki disperses the flame, thus making it split into two halves, thus making the illusion look like he's actually cutting fire, but really he's kind of like pushing the element apart. So Zoro learning this technique during Wano is highly possible. He might even learn it fighting King, who's seen as a swordsman, as well as using flame techniques. So Zoro learning it while fighting King and being on the brink and on the edge makes a lot of sense, as we know that Haki bloom the more you fight, as well as when you're in a dire situation having to break your limit. So Zoro may fight King at one point and being forced to break his limits and being in a dire situation. He may get a flashback of when Kinemon was slicing the fire, and that's when Zoro learns to cut fire himself. We are seeing that Zoro is in the middle of enemy territory and he's going through a whole bunch of enemies and gifters and pleasurers and numbers and all that. So Zoro, by the end of all these battles, will definitely gain himself one or maybe two black blades. And speaking of blades, I highly believe that Zoro will replace his Sandai Katetsu for the Nidai Katetsu, or at least gain the Nidai Katetsu. He might have 4 swords, he might not do 4 sword style because that's kind of ridiculous, and he might just use each sword for different situations, but I definitely believe or 100% agree that he will get the Nidai Katetsu. Because when we entered Wano, it seemed like it was being hyped to be a sort of legendary blade as it was created and crafted by Tengayama Hitetsu, so by the end of this arc, he might believe that Zoro is worthy and give the sword to Zoro, but we don't even know where that sword is, because Zoro said when he saw Luffy holding it that he wanted to see it and touch it, but Luffy never gave it to him. I feel like Oda did that for a reason. And that plotline went absolutely nowhere. I think that Zoro's gonna get possession of the Nidai Katetsu. I don't know if he'll give away, or maybe his Sandai Katetsu would break and he just has to get a new one. And because the Nidai is a higher grade than the Sandai, I think it makes much more sense. Now it's been foreshadowed, or at least hinted at, that Zoro will encounter and fight against Kaido because he got the sword that was said to pierce Kaido's skin, and you wouldn't give a sword like that and not have him fight Kaido, as well as the whole similarity between Zoro and Ryuma both being able to cut dragons, and there is a dragon in Wano and that is Kaido, so that may happen once again. I'm gonna say right now, I don't think Zoro's gonna kill Kaido. Neither do I think he's gonna hit the finishing blow on Kaido, but I definitely believe that Zoro will land a blow and even may scar Kaido with Enma and Wado Ichimonji in hand, even mirroring the scene from when Oden cut Kaido back in the flashback. I have always said, or I still do believe, that this is going to be a group battle, so people might be distracting Kaido and then Zoro comes in and does the finishing blow. Or it's like when they fought Oris and it's a team up and Zoro does the Ichidai Sanzen Daisen Zakai and then he scars Kaido similar and everyone sees this and they're surprised, which I think would be a very, very cool moment. And with X Drake being a secret member of the Marines being a part of Sword and CP0 also being hinted at nearby in Wano, they will bear witness to this feat, and this will be one of the reasons for Zoro's bounty increase. With Zoro fighting hordes of Kaido's men and possibly scarring and landing a blow on Kaido, this will give Zoro a significant bounty increase and may honestly finally give Zoro a bounty of 1 billion and higher. He is considered to be Luffy's first mate and one of the strongest members of the Straw Hat Pirates, and Luffy is so far and above everyone on his crew, so I think it's time for some of the Straw Hats to get bounties of over 1 billion. The only members I think are going to get bounties of over 1 billion, or at least near it, is going to be Zoro, Jinbei, Sanji, and Yamato if she joins, but more on that in a different. So him getting a bounty of near 1 billion, or at least 1 billion, will prove his worth and show that the Straw Hats are here to stay. They're en route to becoming one of the greatest pirates in history. Now, I could see that Zoro and Sanji both get bounties that are equal, which would be funny, but to me would be even funnier is if Zoro got a bounty of 1 billion flat, while Sanji got a bounty of $999,999,999, just being beaten by one measly dollar. In the world of One Piece, many people consider Zoro as like the vice captain or the right hand man to Luffy, so him getting a bounty near Luffy, as we've seen with all the other Yonko, their commanders or the right hand all have bounties of over 1 billion. Now Zoro having a bounty of over 1 billion, or at least 1 billion, will make sense and prove that he really is one of Luffy's right hand men. And if Zoro truly is able to pierce the skin of Kaido, that's gonna put a lot of fear into people's hearts that someone was able to pierce the invincible skin of the Yonko 100 Beast Kaido. I think it's time we discuss the elephant in the room. Will Zoro open up his left eye? Ever since post time skip with his training with Mihawk, Zoro has not once opened that eye and it's always been closed. And even Fujitora, whose both eyes are blind, opened his eyes and he saw white, so Zoro not opening his eye is kind of interesting. People have speculated the reason he hasn't opened his eyes because it'll unleash his secret ability. Maybe it'll unlock Ashura because it's being kept away after learning the truth behind it from Mihawk. It's possible that Ashura is actually Haki related and Mihawk told him to keep his eyes closed until he's able to master it. Or once he opens it, he's able to access a greater, higher level of observation Haki. Personally, I prefer if the eyes stay closed. I've seen a lot of eye abilities in anime and I'm kind of sick of it, to be honest. But I wouldn't mind if Zoro had some sort of secret eye technique once he opens it. I wouldn't mind it. It would make sense, I guess, if Mihawk told him keep it closed until you're in a dire situation. And the absence of Ashura is fascinating because not once in post time skip, not in filler, anime, or a movie, Zoro has used this technique. So I think after Wano, or during Wano, the battle in Onigashima, Zoro will finally unleash this technique and we'll see its full potential. And before we end the video, I want to bring up the possibility of Zoro gaining the ability of King's Haki. I am not against the thought of Zoro gaining King's Haki. As we've seen with a lot of powerful crews like the Yonko and Roger's crew, they all had more than one Conqueror's user. In Roger's crew, there's Roger, Shanks, Rayleigh, Kozuki Oden. If you want to go into the movies, you can add Douglas Bullet. In Whitebeard's crew, there was Whitebeard, Ace, possibly Marco, as well as Kozuki Oden again. Big Mom's crew has her and Katakuri, so the thought of having more than one Conqueror's user in one crew is not really that far-fetched. Zoro definitely has the credentials of having King's Haki because he wants to become the greatest swordsman or the strongest swordsman. That means he has to become the cream of the crop, the best of the best. Basically the king of swordsmen in a way. He has the willpower and the ambition, and it can mirror Roger as well as Rayleigh had King's Haki, so Zoro having it as well, I'd be fine with it. I'm actually cool if other Straw Hat members had Conqueror's Haki, such as Usopp, Zoro, maybe Sanji because the whole Prince thing, but personally I don't think he's gonna have it. Usopp more for character purpose and story. Zoro, it'd be cool, and the whole mirroring between Roger Pirates I think fits. See, as back in Fishman Island when he first saw Luffy use King's Haki, he was like, oh, like I'm glad he has it, otherwise he'd have to step down as a captain. Zoro just has that powerful presence about him to the point where when he cut Monet without using Haki, she got so scared she couldn't even put herself back together. So Zoro having King's Haki to me would be perfectly fine in my book. Anyways, that's the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to rate the video, subscribe, and click the bell icon to stay notified. Put down the comments down below what you guys think of Zoro and what will happen to him after Wano, and what kind of abilities, power-ups, as well as his bounty will be once Wano is finished. Also, if you guys are down with Zoro having King's Haki and which members of the Straw Hats you think might get Conqueror's Haki, it might just be Luffy and that's it, but there might be other members. I hope you guys all have a good day and a good night. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Toodles!